The word Harvard usually conjures images of ivy-covered walls, brilliant students, and a reputation built on excellence, intellect, and trust. For generations, the Harvard name has been a badge of honor, a golden ticket into the world of prestige and power. But what if I told you that very reputation, that aura of credibility, was exploited in one of the most shocking investment scams in recent history? What if Harvard became not a guarantee of trust, but a tool of manipulation, costing investors millions? This is the story of how ambition, deception, and misplaced trust turned an investment opportunity into a nightmare. It's not just a cautionary tale, it's a wake-up call. Because the truth is, if the Harvard name can be used to trick people, then nobody is truly safe from the traps of financial fraud. Let's rewind. The scam began with what looked like a dream opportunity. Promoters of this scheme presented themselves as deeply connected to Harvard alumni networks, pitching an exclusive chance to invest in ventures that were supposedly backed by the brightest minds in Cambridge. The story was airtight. They claimed the investments were linked to breakthrough startups founded by Harvard grads, the kind of businesses destined to become the next Facebook, Moderna, or Dropbox, all companies with Harvard roots. Investors were told they were getting in early, before the rest of the world could even blink. The pitch was seductive. Who wouldn't want to ride the coattails of the Harvard elite? And the scammers knew exactly how to press the right buttons. They flaunted Harvard-branded materials, dropped the names of professors and alumni, even arranged meetings in high-end settings to make everything look legitimate. This wasn't a back-alley con. It was dressed up in sophistication and credibility. And people bought in. Investors poured in their money, millions of dollars, believing they were part of an exclusive inner circle. The psychology was genius. It wasn't just about financial gain, it was about belonging. Being part of something tied to Harvard made them feel chosen, smarter, validated. It was less about the numbers and more about the prestige. But here's where the cracks began to show. The promised returns. They never came. The startups that were supposedly booming, they didn't exist. And when investors started asking questions, the answers became vague, evasive, and eventually non-existent. The whole scheme unraveled into what it truly was, an elaborate con, one that hijacked the Harvard name to cloak greed and deception. At the center of the scam was the exploitation of trust. Financial experts call it affinity fraud, a con that preys on people who share a common bond, whether it's religion, community, or in this case, the Harvard brand. When people feel they're among their own, they lower their defenses. They don't do the same due diligence they do with a stranger because the trust is automatic. And that's what made this scam so devastating. It wasn't just about money. It was about betrayal. For many victims, the financial damage was crippling. Retirement savings vanished. Family funds evaporated. But what cut even deeper was the shame. How could such intelligent, accomplished people who prided themselves on their education and judgment, fall for something like this? That shame silenced many victims, allowing the scheme to go on longer than it should have. Eventually, regulators and investigators stepped in. The perpetrators were exposed, lawsuits followed, and some justice was served. But the money? Most of it was gone. And the scar left behind was bigger than just a financial loss. It was the erosion of trust in a brand that had always symbolized integrity. Now let's pause here, because the bigger question is this: how did this happen? And more importantly, how can you protect yourself from falling into a similar trap? The answer lies in understanding the mechanics of scams like this. First, they use credibility by association. By linking themselves to Harvard, the scammers bypassed skepticism. They borrowed legitimacy from an institution that didn't even know what was happening. Second, they created urgency and exclusivity. Get in now before it's too late. Only a select few are being invited. These lines trigger FOMO, fear of missing out, which makes people act fast without thinking. And third, they preyed on ego. Let's be honest. Being part of an exclusive Harvard deal makes people feel special, smarter than the average investor. That pride becomes a blindfold. So how do you fight back? By remembering that no brand, no network, no prestigious name is immune to being hijacked. Do the homework yourself. Verify the companies. Ask for independent documentation. Don't let urgency rush you into decisions, and never invest more than you can afford to lose. Scammers are experts at making things look legitimate, but legitimacy is proven through hard facts, not glossy brochures or fancy names. And here's the deeper truth. Scams like the Harvard scheme aren't rare. They happen every day in different forms, preying on different groups. Maybe it's a church community. Maybe it's a social club. Maybe it's a network of professionals. The tactics change, but the psychology is the same. People trust what feels familiar, and scammers weaponize that trust. The Harvard scam stands out not just because of the money lost, but because of what it symbolizes. If even the world's most prestigious name can be twisted into bait, then nobody is untouchable. It's a reminder that in finance, skepticism is your greatest shield. Trust is earned, not assumed. In the end, this wasn't just an investment trap. It was a mirror, showing us how ambition, pride, and trust can be turned against us. The victims weren't foolish. They were human. And that's why this story matters. Because the next scam won't wear the Harvard badge. It might wear another logo, another brand, another trusted name. And unless we learn from this, history will repeat itself. So, the next time an exclusive opportunity lands in your inbox, promising prestige and guaranteed returns, ask yourself, is this really an investment? Or is it just another trap dressed in credibility? Because if the Harvard scam taught us anything, it's this. When it comes to your money, the smartest investment you can make is caution.